hell do you think you are?
I'm the professor.
I was not expecting to see you here. Thought you were, retired.
People keep asking if I'm back, and I haven't really had an answer. But now, yeah, I'm thinking I'm back.
Hey everybody, it's Professor Fen here to talk Magic. I think I'm going to do the format for the Friday Night Magics is probably going to be like Friday news, just to have you guys something to talk about at the local gaming store while you're hanging out waiting ready to play. I'm going to be drafting at Medium End tonight, so if you're in the New Orleans area, stop in and say hi. This week in Magic news, the top 5 things that are being talked about on the internet, but not in any specific order, are Mark Rosewater's 30 Years Part 2. He put out an article this week talking about the second part of his looking back at the 30 years that he's been in charge of Magic. So yeah, he came in 95, like 2 years after the game started in 93. So he's been there since 4th edition. So, he's been around, seen everything, done everything. He's talked about how the rules, mechanics, templating, and world building have changed since 95. And I think, it took us a while to start actually planeswalking and getting off of Dominaria, because it was the Dominaria story for, a long part of the 90s. And then we started going to Mirrodin, and we started getting involved in all that stuff. And it's okay, we're starting to see the universe. So the world building, I think, especially with when they don't do other people's IPs and go to other planes of existence, I think the world building is pretty cool. Personally, I wish we still did blocks. We stayed with planes a lot longer. Back in the day, we'd stay there for 2-3 sets, and you'd get to actually dive into the flavor and have some fun exploring around and finding the combinations of stuff that work. Now it's just it's too fast. You're here, you're there, here, you're there. It's giving you world building jet lag. The templating, the text on the card, the ability to look at something and go RTFC, how the cards actually, the shortcut things of enters, that's what enters means enters the battlefield, or instead of being when this card comes into play, the text has gotten concise, but it has gotten to be more complex because you can put more stuff onto the card when you have the templating as fine-tuned as they do nowadays. The mechanics, I think, we used to have a lot simpler evergreen mechanics back in the day. Flying, it had some crazy ones like flanking, horsemanship, but nowadays we're really seeing certain mechanics fit into certain colors. So, cards have really dialed in the mill as being actually a keyword, and a mechanic in the templating now is good. So you can fit a lot more text on a card that's on a mill card. And the rules, not much has changed, but more of the clarifications and how things interact, because the rules of Magic in draft and standard and stuff like that have gotten very, very, very much more simpler. But when you get to the older formats like Commander, Modern, Legacy, Vintage, and you got all these different things and how they interact with each other, has gotten really complex. I mean, they use the Dewey Decimal System for the rules templating. It's according to Rule 7055.62-A, this happens, but that is actually overridden by Rule 230.56-C, and reading the comprehensive rules, Magic is super complex, but the actual play rules, the simplified stuff that you can kind of naturally just grok, that I think has really gotten smooth. Taking damage off the stack, so you can't just be well, it's still going to deal its damage, but I'm going to kill it. That I think is it flows. The game flows more easily when you don't try to convolutedly break it. But and talked about changes in the design philosophy, about how they want certain things to be complex. They want to focus more on some of the, they want to have cards that impact across all formats. Having just not having just a few cards that come out for Commander. They want to have a set basically be viable and change up formats. I think for the older formats, the longer formats, I think that kind of changes in the design philosophy. Kind of suck. A lot of older cards get outclassed, and more stuff becomes bulk, and then they like print something new, and that makes something that was bulk skyrocket in price. And the board clarity about having everything be a cleaner game. I like how they've really gone where they needed to go over the years to make the game state more clear. And defining, and the times when they kind of shift the color pie, and there's certain aspects of Magic kind of shift over the years and self-correct and spread a little bit and get broken. I mean, it's still generally, I like that certain things feel green. There's green has a flavor to it. Blue has a flavor to it. Everything has a flavor to it. And when they do break it, it does create something cool and unique and interesting. And I think a lot of that stuff ends up being like, especially the Eldrazi, like you can play Eldrazi either 5-color with Devoid, or you can play them as a strictly mono-color faction. And I think that kind of space ended up being kind of cool. The whole actually going in and establishing colorless as part of the color pie when they created the Eldrazi's and the Waste, that was like a change I love seeing for Magic. So I think, everything they've changed about Magic over the years, like how the game plays, how the colors are identified, how the wording is put on the cards. I think everything they've changed over the years has made the game evolve, made it be the one to stay through all the changing of the seasons and the different burst and bubble economies that we've had centered around card games. So I think the design aspect, when they're doing their own stuff, has just been the biggest success. Like the evolution of Magic has caused it to be successful because it keeps evolving and updating itself and changing and growing and becoming more complex and having more niche, decks that you can play in Commander. It's all good. And coming back in after taking like a good 7-year break from competitive Magic, I think I was able to get right back in. And there are some of my old decks I want to rebuild and update, but there's also some of the newer decks that have come along since then that I'm like, ooh, this is to totally be a really cool kind of theme to build around and dive into. So I think the complexity and the ruling and how it's played, that change, I like. The philosophy of opening it up and bringing in the other IPs, I'm still on the fence. Like, I got into the Transformer stuff. I made sure I got my hands on that when I was playing casually. I skipped a lot of the crossovers. I think Transformers and Spider-Man are like the two crossover sets that I've actually, bought. I've actually cracked packs on the show. The Spider-Man ones. Avatar, of course, is getting released this week. I've seen some cards from it. It kind of seems kind of cool. Ninja Turtles. Yeah, that's definitely one of the ones that's going to be slapping me and going, ooh, yeah, boy. Star Trek. I'm not a big Star Trek fan. I kind of feel bad that I missed out on Lord of the Rings. Going back in and looking for some cards to update my cube and my decks once I tear apart the cube. to build my decks. I kind of want to rebuild the cube, and I've like the Lord of the Rings stuff is kind of like okay. Some of the D&D stuff, I'm like okay, some D&D stuff, you know, some Lord of the Rings. I could see those all making some additions into my cube, but going too far outside the realm of Magic, I don't know. I'm still on the fence, so we'll talk in a couple more sets. We'll talk once we get through Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I'm going to reserve my thoughts on whether or not Universes Beyond is good or not until after Turtles. Because it really has not, like in draft, my draft experience with it is like, it feels more like I'm playing a Spider-Man card game with Magic rules. And the Commander stuff, I'm like, okay, it can kind of fit in here. There's so many other stuff that's like traditional Magic stuff that it doesn't really like break. And I'm only playing like a few Spider-Man cards, and I did building a Transformers themed deck, so it's weird. But it's not overall changed my experience. It's still the same lines of play and strategy. It's just like there's some extra flavors in here that's just like, we'll find out how it all fits in. And yeah, of course, the second big thing, and it's been bleeding into this conversation talking about the design, is the Universes Beyond concerns. Debate's heating up again about crossover sets being too common. I think, yes, it is. Like, this should feel like Universes Beyond should be it shouldn't be like every other set is a Universes Beyond set. It should be a whole thing of like, this year's Universes Beyond set is this IP. So we get the whole thing of like, oh, okay, so we're going to be doing a little stuff with this thing for this year. And then, like, we get a rest. And then, ooh, we're doing this, and then we get a rest. And, ooh, we're doing this, and we get a rest. And, you know, supplemental, I think, personally, I feel like if it was just, like, current cards reskinned and, or new cards created just to put into Commander decks, if we could just get the Universes Beyond out of the constructed formats and keep them in their own thing where it's like, yeah, you can put those in Commander. Because that Commander's where your deck is like, you know, should be like fun and themed and built around a certain concept, not just like, I'm going to draft Spider-Man or not draft Spider-Man because I drove all the way to the card shop and then nobody showed up. I think it should be one of those things of it should be there for the players that want it. It should not be forced onto the whole ecosystem. And I think that's the big backlash with Spider-Man, is it was forced onto the whole ecosystem. And we'll find out whether or not there's enough Avatar: The Last Airbender fans to survive it being forced onto the shop ecosystem yet again, where everybody has to. It's like, what do we have this week? We got Avatar. It's like, I'm sick of Avatar. I don't want Avatar. So, granted, Final Fantasy was just like, I hear from everybody that Final Fantasy was big because a lot of people who were playing Magic back in the day were playing Final Fantasy VII back in the day as well. If you had a PlayStation and you had Magic cards, guess what? If you had a PlayStation, you owned a copy of Final Fantasy VII. So, yeah. And it is. It's like the in-universe flavor of Magic and the iconic Magic characters and locations are getting like pushed aside for the cash grab IPs. And it does kind of feel like, and like I said, it doesn't feel like I'm playing Magic when I'm drafting Spider-Man. It feels like I'm playing Spider-Man, but it's Magic, and it's okay. But it's just like, you know, I want some Landor elves and stuff like that. You know, Magic's got a great IP, and it should be the thing that's carrying Magic, not the thing that is like, well, we got to keep doing this when we could just like release like a bunch of different. Because Universes Beyond feels to me like it's a bunch of different games that all use the same mechanic, and just and because you're putting them in sleeves, then guess what? You don't see the Magic the Gathering back, and you could legit like change the mana icons to be like, you could change them to be black Spider-Mans. You could change all the mana symbols just to be like different Spider-Man mask or different certain villain mask, and you could just be like change the mana icons, and bam, it is a complete different card game. And I think that's the problem a lot of people are having with the Spider-Man stuff and the others and the rest of the Universes Beyond, because we want Chase and we want Chandra and we want Gideon and Elspeth and Ajani, and we want Tiz, and we want Nicobolas, and we want all these characters that we've spent 30 years getting to know. We want Urza. We want our characters, we want our locations to be the thing in the deck. So yeah, it's that's where I feel about the Universes Beyond. But still, if Avatar and Turtles ends up being the kind of thing where I go to Friday Night Magic to draft, and it's like me and 2 other people showed up for draft and nobody else showed up, and that happens a couple weeks in a row, I'm probably going to be at the point where I'm like, I don't want to play Magic anymore, because I can't play Magic how I want to play Magic unless I go online and draft online, and I'd rather be hanging out with new people and talking to them, interacting. Like, it's fun just to sit in my office and ramble about Magic, but I like to ramble with other people and have discussions. So the banned and restricted updates. So yeah, we got like big across the board. Some problem decks all got nerfed. There's bans, unbanning, pre-banning. Yeah, High Tide got brought into High Tide, got unbanned and then got rebanned. In Pauper, you get it's like a bunch of it's still like trying to fix all the digital only formats on Arena, because they keep bringing new stuff in. They got like, well, that's too powerful. They gotta ban it. Yeah, it's. And the sucky thing is that you get new players, and you get, especially with like the Commander format. When the Commander format, when something gets banned or unbanned, and if it's something that's in a new set, somebody cracks that and they're like, "Oh, this is awesome! I'm gonna put it in a deck," and then they can't play it, and they showed up, and if it doesn't get caught until the game actually starts, and you're in a tournament, and that ends up causing you to have a DQ. Our game losses, because you got a banned card in your deck. It feels bad moments. Like, and I think because they're putting out so many sets and they're doing so much pushing the cards, their Universes Beyond, and those cards are getting leaked. They're getting released in the sets. They end up in the competitive formats, or you're printing cards that ended up getting banned like 2 years ago because you designed this set 4 years ago, so you can keep up with the design release pace that you're going at. It's just a huge mess in everything with the ban and restricting. Just, we need to have standard cards, not like the standard power level standard needs to get ratcheted down, so that way we're not having the problem of like, okay, these cards got out, they're banned, they're not even getting play tested with each other because you're working so fast to get the sets released that you're only really thinking about like, well, how does this work in like Commander, and how does it work in Limited, It's like, no. But here's the thing. The real bad problem in the rule. We've had the Universes Beyond, the banned restricted updates, like, players walking away from formats and having bad experiences because they opened a card in a pack that they bought for MSRP and find out that the card that they thought was really good it can't be played. The fact that you got players that are like, we don't like this IP, we don't want to have to do this. The problem is, none of these problems are going to be addressed by Wizards of the Coast because Hasbro, MTG business report is that revenue is up 55%. So if you went from making $100 to $155 this year, for every dollar they made in 2024, in 2025 they made, for every $100 they made $155 comparatively. Now part of that is because you get the collector's masters, the collector's edition packs are selling out. Getting distributors and retail shops, in order to get their hands on the collector's packs, they got to order X number of play booster packs. Unlike with like books and like D&D publishing and stuff like that, if you have unsold books, you can't just send them back to the publisher and get your money back. Once you bought the product, you bought the product. So once Wizards sells everything out to the distributors, and the distributors get stuck with it, then they've got to raise the prices onto the stores, which ends up having to raise the prices onto the players. And you have this glut of and you're seeing this with the Star Wars CCG, with Star Wars Unlimited, because they had the whole thing of, in order to get the play boosters, you had to order the Carbonite boosters, which is their version of the collector's boosters. For every case of collector's booster, or every case or box of collector's boosters you want to get your hands on, you had to get 4 of either boxes or cases of the play boosters. And play boosters for Star Wars are like $80. Like, I think I got mine for my Cracker Packs on the Board Barista channel. I got them for like $78 a box. I can get a case of Star Wars play boosters for the price of 2 Spider-Man booster boxes at my LGS. Just going online and just ordering them from Noble Knight Games or TCG Player, places like that. I can get Star Wars Unlimited dirt cheap for the play boosters. For the Carbonite boosters, I'm shelling out the same kind of $300, $400, $500, possibly $600 sometimes, that you get for the collector's boosters for Magic. And I have always thought, ever since they brought collector's boosters out, that was going to hurt it hurts the collectability, because everybody wants the pimp, alternate foil, full art, cool stuff. And if you have that in the booster packs, people are going to want to buy the booster packs, and they're going to buy more of the booster packs to get those out of regular play booster packs. But when you sell them the premium booster pack for extra cash, all they can get is the premium booster box and not be able to buy enough boosters or products to get a whole collection. They're going to spend all their cash buying. The price to buy one collector's pack or one Carbonite pack is the same price to do a whole draft tournament, which you can end up walking away with the contents of 3 to possibly, if you do really well, 13 booster packs for the price of you can end up, if you're a good player and can take first place, and there's 10 packs for first place in the tournament, you can pay the same price for a collector's pack and walk away with 13 packs of Magic cards. It's insane. But because you spent that money on that collector's booster pack for one pack of cards, you can't enter into the tournament to play to try to win to crack more. And shops have tons of booster pack boxes, especially if it ends up being a set that nobody likes. Oh man, you walk in and you see like stacks of Spider-Man boxes sitting there behind the counter because they wanted to get the Spider-Man collector's boxes, but they got to get the regular Spider-Man play booster boxes. Now they're stuck with that, and you wonder why, the stores start having to charge table fees, and they have to start charging, more money on the snacks. They got to start charging more money on the singles. They got to charge you more money because they're stuck with product they can't move. They're losing money. Yes, Hasbro is making a lot of money, but the shops, the places where people go to play, where actually the game stays alive, that is, I've seen it with Star Wars, like Star Wars attendance. Ever since the Carbonite packs came out, attendance dropped almost in half because everybody's like, oh, I'm broke, I can't go to this because I bought all these Carbonite boxes. And yeah, I feel like the same kind of thing is going to start happening with Magic. And even though Magic has had collector's packs for way longer, I think we're going to see, especially if we have a bunch of dud sets, if Avatar is bad, because the hype train online was great for Spider-Man. It's been great for Avatar. Like, oh, look at these reprints. Look at these cool cards. Yeah, this is going to be fun. And then you show up to play, and it's crickets. No one's there. All the hype, all this cool stuff we can do, and then nobody's showing up to play. Which is going to be great for Hasbro. They're going to make a ton of money, and they're going to take that money and they're going to run because that money is already lost. They've already made it. They're going to make more stuff. They're like, oh, that sold out, that did great. It's like, no. The market for a game, the judge of whether or not a game is doing good is not the profit margin. The judge of a game doing great is how much it's being played. And if it's not being played, then guess what? It's not good. Like, the people who are going to buy the stuff to stock it, to keep it going, aren't going to buy the stuff. And then you're going to see the whole thing of, like, the economy just start, like, that bubble burst. And they're going to be like, well, we're not making as much money. And I think it's going to have to be that way for Hasbro to be like, all right, slow Magic down again. We're not making enough money. Let's stop doing 7 sets a year. Let's go back to just doing 4 or 3. Like, go back to just doing 3 sets a year. We're gonna scale back everything. It's gonna cost us too much to print all these different versions of the cards. Let's get rid of the collector's boosters. Let's put everything back in the packs. And I think when they do that, then it's gonna be like, you're gonna see the adjustment and everything's gonna come back at that point. And they'll probably, but that adjustment is not gonna happen until Hasbro's wallet gets hit. All the problems we're seeing aren't gonna fix unless Hasbro stops making money. Because if they keep making money like this, they're still gonna, it's still gonna be the same problems we're having. Upcoming sets, Avatar: The Last Airbender, like I said, that is releasing next week. It goes on release Friday, today, as you're watching this. If you're watching this on the release day, it's coming out. You can go to the stores, you can get your pre-release kits, you can do a few little purchases here and there. Some of the stuff that they earmark for being able to be sold at release. Like I said, the previews and hype is going great. Great, it was going great for Spider-Man as well, but we'll see how much people actually want to spend, how much people actually want to play an Avatar TCG with MTG rules. The Commander kits that they got coming out, ironically enough, I actually kind of do want to get one of those. I kind of want to get one and then basically be like, okay, I'm going to build a Commander deck out of this command. Can you build a Commander deck from this Commander kit? And have that be my Avatar, the trading card game deck. I think that's going to be a plan. So, and they're saying the set is creating some big crossover energy. Casual players are really excited about it. So Commander players are really excited about it. Yeah. The issues are, does Avatar fit in with Magic's mechanical identity? You know, you get some stuff where it's like, well, does this all fit? I mean, the firebending stuff that's on non-black cards. So you got black, a mono black deck, and Commander can now produce like exorbitant amounts of red mana. Earthbending, waterbending. They're on like like white, green, like earthbending on non-green cards and stuff like that. So you got kind of like a weird stuff. You know, some people being like, well, that's not really, like, nothing about this character. They don't wear any blue and they don't do waterbending. Why are they blue? Kind of questions. And, you know, I hope that there's enough people out there who want to play an Avatar TCG, because there's no Avatar TCG out right now. I hope that there's enough people out there that want to play an Avatar TCG and are willing to play it with Magic the Gathering rules, and people show up. Because, and instead of it just being like, well, the collector's boxes sold really well. Yeah, I'm starting to repeat myself. So yeah, let's wrap this up with a whole, well, how does this affect, you know, Friday Night Magic players? So the trends, you know, Hasbro's making more money, so they're not going to listen to us if we're complaining that we don't want all these crossovers, and we don't want them in our constructed formats. We don't want to have to, you know, be forced to have to stock this product, because it's the product we can get this from distributors right now, and we can't get any of the older product from the distributors because that stuff is all sold out, and we're just, you know, getting stuck with. I'm afraid for the community if Avatar is a bust like Spider-Man was when it comes to the play boosters and draft. One thing I will say is, unless you are the person who's got the disposable income and wants to go out there and chase after, you know, the really flashy, cool stuff and crack the collector's booster packs, I say don't. I say, like I said, you can buy one collector's booster pack or you can go draft. You know my advice. Don't buy the collector's booster. Go draft. Come play. Come play Avatar the TCG with me. And I think also the fact, like, because Commander has become like the signature format of the LGS, unless you're actually playing in hyper competitive areas, then you are going to be like, and you have the money to be able to play into this continual hype train of product. I think, yeah, it's easier to do with a non-rotating strategy. Possibly pick up a few cards that you need that got reprinted, or new cards that synergize well with your decks. And the fact that the market is going to be flooded with some of the with a lot more of the non-premium stuff than, because everybody's been cracking all the premium stuff. You're getting stuck with non-premium stuff. It does open up the doors to make some budget allocations. And like I said, always look, if your local community is complaining about how Magic is doing, the complaints aren't really going to matter if Hasbro's making a lot of money. So you really need to keep an eye on how Hasbro is gauging how well things are doing. So keep an eye on those quarterly reports when they come out, because we're only going to see real change to the game improving the problems we have with it when Hasbro is forced to listen to us, the players, not the collectors and the hoarders and the investors who buy up everything and make everything so dang expensive that we can't afford it. So, and yeah, I just hope that we get to play some Avatar: The Last Airbender TCG. And I hope I get some Avatar: Last Airbender TCG cards that I can put into my Magic decks. Because I really just want to play the game. It's really... And as long as they stay with the fantasy stuff, the Star Trek thing just... I'm a Star Wars fan. I don't want to play with Star Trek cards. I don't want to play with Star Trek cards. Don't. I own some Star Trek CCG cards from Decipher back in the day. I sold them without ever playing a game. I'm not a fan. I mean, it's cool. I'll watch the shows. Deep Space Nine was my favorite. But that was because it was like a knockoff of Babylon 5. So maybe I'll make a Deep Space Nine themed deck if there's enough Deep Space Nine themed stuff to build a deck. I really hope that's what they do. They kind of do like a whole thing of like they theme enough stuff together so it's just like you can play this deck and I don't know. We're gonna talk about it when we get there, but I'm done for tonight. I'll see you at the game store. Peace.